Well, good morning, Rotary District 7770, and welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Monday, July 27th. Can you believe July is almost over? My name is Donald Hovis from the Chicora Rotary Club in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and today we are pleased to be joined by the State Manager for South Carolina for the Save the Children Action Network, a fellow District 7770 Rotarian from the Spring Valley Rotary Club, Miss Deborah DePaoli. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning. How are you, Donald?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to hearing your presentation here in just a few minutes. I will kick off today with the vision statement of Rotary. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Introducing your CWRAP team. The Public Image Chair for our wonderful Rotary District from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia, Miss Mary Gask. Good morning, Mary. And our District Communications Officer, he runs the stream here for CWRAP from the Somerville Evening Rotary Club in Somerville, South Carolina, Mr. Terry Moore. Good morning, Terry. So Deborah, to kick it off, what brought you to this work advocating for children?
That's a great question, Donald. I started off my career as a public school teacher. I was living in California at the time, and I worked with a large population of children who qualified for free or reduced lunch, children whose families were struggling financially. My first year teaching, I was teaching kindergarten. And it really struck me the difference between the children I had in my class who had attended preschool or Head Start or one of those programs, and the children who had never had those opportunities. I could see in my classroom with the children, those who were ready to learn, they knew how to play with other children, they knew how to follow instructions, they understood, moving through a structure and cooperating with other people, and those who had never exercised those skills. So that was kind of the beginning of my understanding of the importance of early education. Fast forward 20, 25 years, in 2015, I was working for First Steps, and I had the opportunity to go hear Molly Spearman give an address to the legislature. That was when she had first taken office. And as I was leaving, I struck up a conversation with a young woman who at that point was working for Save the Children Action Network. I was working, like I said, in early childhood. Oh, you work in early childhood. Oh, what do you do? And she, of course, was an advocate for early childhood. And I was like, oh, wow, well, this was meant to be. So I started to volunteer at that point with Save the Children Action Network, looking for ways to ensure that all children have access to early education. And then about 2 years ago, I made the shift and started working full-time with Save the Children Action Network.
Excellent. Now, well, I believe right before that, actually, those of you watching here on Zoom, please go to the chat box and let us know your Rotary Club and where you're watching from today. I do see our district governor is on the line from vacation, so you can watch while you're on vacation. Pauline, we hope you enjoy yourself in Georgia. Also, over on Facebook, if you're watching us, please just post a comment below the stream as well. So, Deborah, I believe you want to maybe share your screen at this point?
I do, yes, please. I am going to share a PowerPoint deck with you this morning. And so can everybody see and hear, can everybody see my slide and hear my voice? All right. Well, Save the Children Action Network is the name of the organization that I work with. And let's see, oh, it's not wanting to let me. There we go. Here's our agenda for this morning. I want to talk to you about Save the Children and then Save the Children Action Network. We're sister organizations. I want to share with you what we do, what our issues are that we focus on as an organization, and then give you some opportunities to advocate also on behalf of children. Here are a couple of pictures of some of our beautiful volunteers. The picture on the left, those three beautiful women, we were at a back to school fair last year and getting families involved with advocating for their children. And then the picture on the right, as you can see, we were in Washington, D.C. All of those good-looking people in that picture are from South Carolina, and we all made the trip up to Washington, D.C. to talk to congressional staff and members of Congress about the importance of investing in early education. So Save the Children is a 501c3 for those of you who like technical information. It's a nonprofit, and it started back in 1919, right after World War I. It was started by a woman named Eglantine Jebb in England, who saw the children who had been devastated by the First World War and really needed basic interventions to avoid starvation. So she started the organization. It has now grown to more than 120 countries. So we focus on health services, educational services, and protection of children around the globe. You can see on this slide, we reach 155 million children in 120 countries, and that's an affiliation of Save the Children programs. So not to get too techie, but there's Save the Children US and Save the Children UK, and then dozens of other chapters, and we all work in collaboration to reach as many children as possible. And that includes 237,000 children in the US. We exist in 22 states doing direct service program, as well as Puerto Rico. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what that looks like in South Carolina. As you can see on the slide here, there are some statistics about students in the state of South Carolina. There at the top left where it says 35% of fourth graders don't meet basic reading level expectations. That's an astonishing number of children who already in fourth grade are falling behind their academic expectations. And then the second statistic, 40% of children under the age of 6 have family members who read to them less than 4 days a week. And we know that reading is such a foundational part of vocabulary development and literacy and lifelong learning. And then that bottom statistic is really telling. 53% of 3 to 4-year-olds are not enrolled in preschool in the state of South Carolina. That statistic is a couple years old, but it hasn't really improved much since then. When we don't have that early foundation in education, it sets children up on a trajectory where they're not going to accomplish as much as they could. So here at the top, the red box says a lack of high quality learning opportunities. So a child who doesn't have that exposure to language development and books in the home. And then what that does is that child comes to kindergarten not 100% ready to learn, not there with his peers, like I experienced when I taught kindergarten those years ago. Then what happens after that, that child is not reading at grade level by 3rd grade. And then that makes it a lot more likely that they'll drop out of school and a lot less likely that they'll ever attend college. So it really goes back to those preschool years, that birth to 5 time frame in the child's life. And then you look at some of the more long-term effects leading into adulthood. Disadvantaged children who don't participate in high-quality early ed programs are a lot more likely to be arrested for a violent crime, a lot more likely to become a teen parent, like I said, drop out of school. And the economic impact that has, not just on that individual, but on our economy as a whole, is really, really devastating. So 90% of a person's brain develops before the age of 5, and that doesn't mean 90% of learning has taken place, but 90% of the brain development. So really investing in those early years and providing children the opportunities to maximize that brain development is really key. Here in South Carolina, Save the Children has programming in 5 rural counties, and you can see here some of the details. They provide Early Steps, which is a preschool in-home program. school age programs, that's after school learning, homework clubs, those kinds of things. Then summer learning, summer enrichment programs, and kindergarten readiness. So all of that is part of the Save the Children side, which is the direct service programming for children. Across the country, we focus on those counties where children are the most vulnerable and the most marginalized, where children are facing the greatest number of challenges. Now, Save the Children Action Network is, again, for those of you who like legal technicalities, is a 501c4. And that means that we are an advocacy program. So we're not focused on providing direct services to children and their families. We work as a group of community volunteers to advocate at the local, state, and national levels for investments in early childhood education and laws that protect and champion young children. What we're going to do right now is keep our fingers crossed, and I'm going to try to share a video with you. So let's see if that works. I'm going to give it one more second. There we go.
Every day they raise their voices to represent their children, your children, our children.
Kids don't vote and kids don't give political money, so they oftentimes don't have a seat at the table. And political leaders don't make kids the priority they need to be.
At Save the Children Action Network, we believe that every child deserves the best start in life. That's why we're working to expand access to high-quality early learning and working to make sure that no mother or child dies from a preventable cause. We're holding politicians accountable, from school boards to the State House to the White House. At Save the Children Action Network, we are the political voice for kids.
All right, I'm always pleased and impressed when we can actually get technology to work, so yay. Let me move on. Early childhood education, these are some of the same things I was talking about a few minutes ago. We know that by age 5, a child's brain is almost completely developed, and that a big number of American children are not enrolled in preschool programs. So we're looking for ways to partner with local school districts, to partner with private child care centers, with nonprofits. We work with coalitions here in South Carolina, such as the Children's Trust, United Way, Institute for Child Success, to maximize the number of children who are able to benefit from early childhood education programs. We also focus on protecting vulnerable children around the world. So we're working on a campaign called Stop the War on Children. Statistics show us that 1 in 5 children around the world live in a conflict zone. And a lot of times in conflict areas, schools are actually targeted as a weapon of war. So we're looking for ways to call on the US government to protect children from those kinds of attacks. We also work on protecting children at our southern border, making sure that they're not separated from their children, from their parents, excuse me, and that they are cared for in a way that is humane and appropriate. So I told you that I would share with you some ways that you can get involved, things that you can do to advocate for children. Even in the midst of a pandemic, there's a lot that we can do virtually, just like we are today. So I've summed it up in these 5 words: click, call, write, share, and get involved. This is a picture from maybe almost 2 years ago. A group of our volunteers here in the Columbia area, we had gotten together at the home of one of my advocates to work on some letter writing and calling congressional offices on behalf of kids. One of the things that you can do, and I will share this website with Mary and Donald to send in any follow-up information for you, is to sign up at our website, which is savethechildrenactionnetwork.org, and then we will send you updates. It's usually about one a week, so I promise we won't totally inundate your inbox. And almost always when we do send you something, we'll be asking you to take action. So it's not just a whole bunch of information that can be overwhelming, but actual action steps that can make a difference for kids in a legislative way. The other thing you can do is to join our community action team. We have a team down in the low country, here in the Midlands, and up in the upstate Greenville-Spartanburg area. So if you live in one of those areas, of course, during the pandemic, we're all meeting virtually, so really anyone can join our community action team at this point. There's a silver lining in the coronavirus situation. But we have a group of committed volunteers who have decided that they're ready to invest maybe 3 or 4 hours a month in advocating for children and becoming an active voice. I'm going to click on this link and let you watch a brief video about our volunteer program and how people can get involved.
Deborah, when this comes up, if you can minimize the PowerPoint so that we could see the YouTube video. We heard the last one, but we couldn't see it.
Oh no! Okay, thank you for telling me. Good gracious. Okay. Okay, let me be sure I know how to do that. Hang on one second. Whoops. Okay, I think this is going to do it. You tell me if it did or not. Oh. Sorry, hang on. Okay, I'm going to try again. Is that working?
Nope, I don't see. We just see.
Okay. Okay, hang on. Okay, talk me through this. So when I'm in the PowerPoint,
right, go back to screen share. Yeah, you get out of your if you click on the YouTube link, it should open a window in your browser, your internet browser.
Okay.
You want that window to be up.
Gotcha. Okay, we'll try it one more time, and if not, I'll just send it to you guys as a link afterward. How's that?
Working.
Yes. All right. Well, I will be sure to include the link to both of those videos in the follow-up email so that you guys can see that. All right, hang on. Okay, so like I said, one of the things you can do is to join our community action team. We have an online meeting once a month, usually in the evening, and that's about an hour. We have a national call that we also make available to all of our advocates, and that's once a month in the evening for about an hour. And we always have a couple of different pieces of legislation that we're working on to support children and children's programming. I'm not even going to try to show you a third video because it's too much, but I will include that in the email that follows up with this. So one thing I do want to point out, we are a completely nonpartisan organization. We work with Democrats, Republicans, independents. And when you look at the issue of education and early childhood education specifically, this is an issue that enjoys broad bipartisan support. Almost anyone that I speak to can understand the importance of investing in early education. Sometimes people who maybe have more of a business background are seeing it as something that really contributes to our workforce and the economy. And then people who maybe come from an education background or health and human services are able to see the impact it has on individual children and families. But all of us can see the importance of investing in early education. And honestly, it's something that saves our educational system money throughout that K-12 spectrum of time when a child is ready to learn at age 5. So those were the things I wanted to share with you. And Donald, I think you said we would give people a chance to ask some questions.
Yes, so thank you for your presentation. If you do have a question for Deborah, please post that in the chat box and we will ask those to her in a few minutes. We'll give everybody a minute or so to populate it if they have a question. I will say for those on the call today, thank you again for joining us. For future Zoom calls, we ask that you add your Rotary Club to your name when you log in, because we do put you in a waiting room. That way we know who you are. So do please add that for future calls. All right, can you give an example to us of a successful project?
Yes, absolutely. So there is a federal program called CCDBG that nobody's ever heard of, and it stands for Child Care Development Block Grant. And those are funds that come to the state, and then each state has the flexibility to use those in the way that's most powerful and effective in their state. And about 2 years ago, about 1 year into the current administration, we had been partnering with some other early childhood organizations, such as the National Association of Education of Young Children, to advocate for increases in those funds. In South Carolina, the CCDBG dollars provide for things like vouchers for working families who can't afford childcare. Those of you who might not have had a preschooler in the last couple of years, including myself, childcare now costs anywhere between $125 to about $225 per week per child. So for a family, especially for a family who's maybe working a minimum wage job or making $10 an hour, quality childcare is just completely unaffordable. And that's where something like the CCDBG funding comes in and allows working families to pay a reduced rate for childcare. So 2 years ago, we were able to get that funding doubled at the federal level, which has a huge impact here in South Carolina. So that's an example of a situation where we were very successful.
Excellent. I believe someone can purchase a tie that are designed by children. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, I've got to get an update on that because this is not the first time that this has come up. I know that years ago, before I was a part of Save the Children Action Network and Save the Children, they had a series of ties that were designed by children and sold as a fundraiser, and then also to increase understanding and awareness about protecting children here and internationally. So I need to find out if that is still a thing, and I will do some research. Okay, Mary says she doesn't think so. Maybe it's because not as many men wear ties to work as people used to, but yes, I've had a lot of people show me like, oh, I have one of the ties from your organization. So see, that just means those are now collector's items. Hold on to them, maybe try to sell them on eBay at a profit, but apparently no, we don't do that anymore. Thank you, Mary.
I was going to say maybe Terry could run to his closet real quick and bring a few back and display them.
That's
Um,
right.
So the next two questions are pandemic related. So they're kind of the same question and in two different questions from two different viewers. So
Okay.
how has the pandemic and upcoming school year start impacted your work and any children issues?
Wow, that could be a whole presentation into itself, so I will try to stay brief. First, I'll talk about the impact it's had on our volunteers, and then I'll talk about the impact it's had on our legislative efforts. So when we all went into quarantine back in March, our organization, just like everybody else, was scrambling to figure out how can we still be effective in this new environment. And it's been amazing. I've actually had a good number of new volunteers join and become very active since the pandemic. And I think maybe it's because people are at home a little bit more and have more time, but I think it's also that people are really community minded and wanting to do something positive during this difficult time. As far as legislation, we are working right now on a piece of legislation called the Child Care is Essential Act, and it's the House is looking to vote on it later this week. So we've been making calls and sending emails to congressional representatives and senators. We know that in order for people to get back to work, they have to have the opportunity to take their child to a safe and affordable child care center. The child care industry has been decimated because of COVID-19. Trying to run a child care center under the best of circumstances is definitely difficult and not very lucrative. But when children aren't able to attend because of quarantine, because of health concerns, and then parents aren't able to pay tuition, it's very, very difficult. Right now, I think about 40 or 50% of our child care centers in South Carolina are still closed or working at a greatly reduced capacity. So that's our focus right now, is legislation that would provide support to the child care industry so that children can be in a safe environment and parents can get back to work knowing that their children are being cared for.
And follow up to that same question about the pandemic, what's the financial condition of Save the Children? Has it been affected, good or bad?
So that's a really good question. Because we are a 501c4, we are completely funded by grant fund, individual grant funding, corporate grant funding, and individual donations, not government funds. So that our team is really proactive, and we usually have a good year's worth of funding ahead of time. So we haven't had an immediate impact, which has been great. That said, everybody is tightening their belts, knowing that the economic impact is going to be long term. And so we're always looking for other partnerships. Right now, a lot of our work is funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Gates Foundation, some of those really large groups, and they are seeing the value in advocating for early childhood education because of the foundational role that it plays in our economy. I put in the chat, I don't know if people can see that, Donald. I put in the chat our website. So if you're interested in learning more, please click on that. And like I said during the presentation, you can register and then you'll be on our listserv. And as I said, I promise you won't get like multiple emails a day. It'll be like one email a week. But also on our website, there are places where you can take immediate action to reach out to your congressional representative, your senator, and let them know that you support the Child Care is Essential Act and that we really need young children to be in a safe place so that their parents can get back to work. And now with the limited access to K-12 education, child care centers are all the more important because it used to be that child care centers focused mostly on children birth to 5 during the day and maybe had aftercare programs when school let out in the afternoon. But now families might be having even greater need for childcare, even including their school-age children.
Excellent. Terry, I believe you may have some ties to display.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see them, but like these are some of the, ideas of the ties they use. This one was designed by Beth, age 11. It's called Lend a Hand. And then this is one I wore during my wedding ceremony because time was running out. It was designed by Felix, age 9, called What Time Is It? And then they have them all for all of the holidays. Christmas, obviously, is a bunch of them. This one's for Halloween. And this one was designed by Chris, age 6, called Scary Halloween. I love collecting them.
That's awesome. If you follow us on social media, like on Facebook and Instagram, both Save the Children and Save the Children Action Network, you'll see a lot of really amazing, I guess I would say, testimonials from children and families around the world about some of the really difficult circumstances that they faced and the way they've been able to overcome those circumstances with the partnership of Save the Children internationally.
So next question is a comment followed up with a question from the same viewer. It sounds like kids are disadvantaged if learning is not a priority at home. How can we help parents emphasize learning at an early age?
That is such a great question. And when you look at the most effective early childhood programs, things like Head Start really come to mind. Head Start was started back in the 1960s for disadvantaged children and their families. And Head Start is what they call a wraparound approach. So it's not only a preschool where the children come and they learn, they also provide in-home visits with the parents, parenting workshops, partnerships in the community with libraries and other early childhood programs, so that parents are given the tools they need to really work with their children and advocate for their children. I worked for about 10 years in Richland School District 2 with our 4K program, and what I found was 99% of parents want to get involved in their child's education. They want to do all that they can, but maybe because of the way they grew up, they just don't have the resources in their back pocket the way some of us do. So we would do parenting workshops, and we would bring the parents in to observe in the classroom, and then provide the parents with opportunities to interact with their children around certain learning objectives, send home learning kits, send home books, and the parents did a phenomenal job with those kinds of things. So programs like 4K programs that are sponsored through your local school district and Head Start really put a huge emphasis on that. And what that does, that gives the parent a toolbox to pull from, so they can continue to be involved in their child's education, show up to the parent-teacher conferences and go to the PTO meetings and feel comfortable and feel like they understand what it is they're advocating for. So that is definitely one of the biggest components. The buzzword in early education is a multi-generational approach. So making sure that we're not just focusing on that 3-year-old, we're focusing on that child's whole family, even if that includes aunts and uncles, grandparents, anyone who's involved in caregiving with that child.
Do you ever distribute books to families of disadvantaged children?
Yes, so that is something that Save the Children does more than Save the Children Action Network. So they're the ones that are more involved in those kinds of things. But yes, I have been seeing on different meetings that I've been a part of, videos and still pictures of staff in, we serve 5 counties, and I am always hesitant to say which ones they are because I sometimes mess it up. I think Orangeburg, Barnwell, Union, Clarendon, and one other rural county where we provide direct service programming. So throughout the pandemic, our staff has been delivering things like diapers, wipes, food, books, board games, learning packets, all those kinds of things in close partnership with the local school districts. So absolutely, that is something that we work on. And then we also have student clubs I have a student club at Spring Valley High School and Blythewood High School here in Columbia. And then we have a student club at College of Charleston and USC, and they get involved in those kinds of projects as well.
Excellent. And what can Rotary clubs do to support early education?
That is a wonderful question. So there are two sides of it. One is the advocacy side, and doing things like those advocacy projects, you know, writing letters, writing emails, letters to the editor, calling your legislators to be sure that they understand how important that early investment is. And then, so that's the advocacy side, but then there's also the direct service side, and there are a lot of opportunities to help out. It's different, of course, during a pandemic, but this too shall pass. So partnering with the local library to do book drives, partnering with the local school districts, making sure that those programs are focused not just on the K-12 children, but the preschool children, through local school districts, local Head Start programs. If members are part of a church that provides an early childhood, you know, preschool program or Mom's Morning Out, partnering with them to provide books, and even to volunteer in the classroom, you know, reading with the 3- and 4-year-olds, those kinds of things. So there really are a lot of opportunities in direct service and also on the advocacy side of things.
Excellent. So thank you so much for your time this morning. We do appreciate it. I can say if you are interested in a Save the Children tie, understand from a viewer you can find some on eBay.
There you go. Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm really excited. I believe that you might be hearing from one of my colleagues in the next couple of weeks or months, Diane Perillo, who works on the Save the Children side. And I know that at a national level, Save the Children and Rotary are partnering on a reading program for families. And that's not something I've been very involved in since I'm more on the advocacy side. But I believe you'll be getting more information about that at some point from Diane, and about how our Rotary here in this region can partner with Rotary National and Save the Children in Washington, D.C. to promote those literacy projects.
Well, thank you for that. We do look forward to hearing from Diane as well.
Fantastic.
As I say every time we close one of these segments, you know, folks, we do these segments 3 times a week. Mondays at 11, Wednesdays at noon is our all club call, brought to you by CWRAP, and then Fridays at 11 o'clock. Upcoming speakers for Wednesday and Friday. We're in for a treat on Wednesday. Have you ever heard of the Rotary Geek, Tiffany Urban? She's going to be with us on Wednesday for our all club call. Tiffany's from the mountain area of North Carolina. I've had the pleasure to meet her, and she actually came and spoke at my club one time. So looking forward to hearing from her. And then upcoming on Friday, we're going to have a gentleman that's going to talk about the Cross Egypt Challenge. Yeah, Egypt, on our CWRAP call right here. Motorbiking racing across the desert. That sounds really fun, doesn't it? I know you want to be here for those. So see us on Wednesday at noon, Friday at 11. I will conclude today with the Rotary 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a wonderful Monday, everybody. Thanks again, Deborah. See everyone on Wednesday. That's a wrap for Conversation with Rotary Action People for Monday, July 27th. Take care. Have a great day.